What if we told you that in a state famous for dairy and beer, there's a huge, ancient Appalachian-like region that the Ice Age simply skipped, leaving behind sheer cliffs and valleys that look nothing like the Midwest? What if the state's most famous tourist attraction, the Wisconsin Dells, was carved in hours by a cataclysmic flood, not millennia of erosion? And that Wisconsin sits atop the remnants of a failed mid-continent drift, hiding some of the world's most ancient copper deposits. This is 50 Wisconsin geography facts you never knew, and a bunch you'll never forget. 50. The glacial line that split Wisconsin in two. Wisconsin is defined by a sharp geographical split. A line marks the farthest extent of the Wisconsin glaciation. The eastern two-thirds is a young landscape of lakes, low hills, and fertile till. The southwestern third, however, is the famous driftless area, which the last glacier missed entirely. This division is the fundamental geographic story of the state, explaining everything from its soil richness to its topography and culture. 49. The driftless area, a land the ice forgot. The driftless area in southwestern Wisconsin, extending into neighboring states, is a rugged, unglaciated plateau, characterized by steep forested hills, deeply carved river valleys, and sheer limestone bluffs. It's called driftless because it lacks a glacial drift, the mix of rock, sand, and till left behind by the last ice sheet. This topography, more like Appalachia than the Midwest, is a direct look at the region's landscape before the Ice Age. 48. Karst topography and cold water streams. The underlying geology of the driftless area is dominated by Paleozoic sedimentary rock, primarily limestone, dolomite, and sandstone. This rock is prone to karst topography, a hidden geography of dissolving rock that creates extensive caves, sinkholes, and disappearing streams. This system feeds the region's signature feature, numerous cold water, spring-fed streams that are globally famous for their trout habitat. 47. Wisconsin's true highest point, Timms Hill. The highest natural point in the state is Timms Hill, located in the northern highland region, cresting at 1,951.5 feet above sea level. Though modest, this summit is part of the glaciated uplands, showing that the glaciers didn't always flatten the land. In this case, the underlying ancient granitic bedrock proved too resistant to be completely scoured, leaving a rugged forested landscape behind. 46. The Niagara Escarpment, Wisconsin's backbone. The Niagara Escarpment, a massive cliff-like ridge of hard Silurian dolomite, runs right through eastern Wisconsin, forming the Door Peninsula and continuing beneath Lake Michigan and into Niagara Falls. This escarpment is literally the state's backbone, separating the lower lands near Green Bay from the higher lands near Lake Michigan. It influences drainage, soil type, and even the locations of early settlements. 45. The Door Peninsula, where the escarpment meets the lake. The famous Door Peninsula, often called the Cape Cod of the Midwest, is the western edge of the Niagara Escarpment. It's a glacially scoured landform separating Green Bay from Lake Michigan. The prominent cliffs and scenic bluffs are particularly dramatic on the Green Bay side, where the scarp face is most visible. The peninsula's unique geography makes it ideal for its famed cherry and apple orchards. 44. Death's Door, the strait that named the county. The name Door County and the peninsula itself come from the perilous strait between the tip of the peninsula and Washington Island, historically known to indigenous tribes and later French explorers as Porte des Morts or Death's Door. This narrow passage is notoriously difficult to navigate due to shallow waters, strong currents, and unpredictable weather, leading to a high concentration of shipwrecks. 43. Apostle Islands, an archipelago of sea caves. In Lake Superior, off Wisconsin's northern tip, lie the Apostle Islands National Lakeshore. This beautiful archipelago consists of 22 islands and a 12-mile stretch of mainland coast. The islands are composed of ancient red sandstone that has been carved by waves, ice, and wind into spectacular formations, including sea caves, that are accessible by boat in summer and can be walked into on the thick lake ice in deep winter. 42. Lake Superior Lowland, copper's ancient origin. The Lake Superior Lowland, a narrow geographic region in the state's far north, drops abruptly from the northern highland. Geologically, this area is part of the mid-continent rift system, an ancient, failed continental split. The rift geography here is the source of the native copper deposits that were mined by indigenous people as far back as 4000 BC, making Wisconsin a center of North America's oldest known metalworking. 41. Wisconsin's thousands of glacial lakes. The state is famously known as the land of 15,000 lakes. the vast majority of which are a direct result of the last ice age. Most of these are kettle lakes, formed when large detached chunks of glacial ice were buried in sediment and subsequently melted, leaving behind deep depressions that filled with water. This process left the northern highland and eastern ridges regions heavily pocked with water. 40. The Kettle Moraine, a glacial junkyard. The Kettle Moraine region in southeastern Wisconsin is a national natural landmark and a spectacular display of glacial topography. It's a long, narrow strip of rugged land composed of a series of moraines, ridges of unsorted debris left by the glaciers. The region is packed with kettle lakes, kames, or canonical hills, and eskers, winding ridges of stream deposits. Truly a junkyard of concentrated glacial landforms. 39. The Ice Age National Scenic Trail. To preserve and showcase this intense glacial heritage, the Ice Age National Scenic Trail traces the terminal moraine, the farthest edge of the last glacier, across Wisconsin for approximately 1,200 miles. The trail passes through all the key glacial features, from the Kettle Moraine to the Baraboo Hills, acting as a living, linear museum of the Ice Age. 38. The Wisconsin Dells, catastrophic carving. The world-famous Wisconsin Dells, a spectacular gorge of Cambrian sandstone, was not carved over millennia by the slow action of the Wisconsin River. It was carved in a matter of hours or a few days by a cataclysmic flood approximately 14,000 years ago, when a large glacial ice-dammed lake, Glacial Lake, Wisconsin, suddenly broke. The torrent of water rapidly sliced through the soft sandstone, creating the deep, narrow, and dramatic rock formation seen today. 37. Devil's Lake, a moraine-blocked gorge. Devil's Lake State Park is home to a beautiful, clear lake nestled in a steep gorge. The lake is an example of a moraine-dammed lake. The Green Bay lobe of the glacier pushed a terminal moraine into the narrow gorge of the ancient Baraboo River, blocking both the north and south outlets and trapping the water, which created the nearly rectangular deep lake. 36. The Baraboo Hills, ancient quartzite. The steep, rugged ridges surrounding Devil's Lake are the Baraboo Hills, one of the oldest geological features in the state. These hills are the eroded remnants of a Precambrian mountain range composed of incredibly hard, purple-red Baraboo quartzite, some of the most erosion-resistant rock in North America, which the glaciers struggled to flatten. 35. Glacial Lake, Wisconsin, a massive precursor. During the Ice Age, a colossal proglacial lake, Glacial Lake, Wisconsin, covered a large portion of the state's central plain. When the ice dam failed, the resulting flood carved the dells. Today, the drained lake bed is the Central Sand Plain, an incredibly flat, sandy region that now supports specialty agriculture, including cranberry marshes and potato farms, relying heavily on irrigation from the underlying glacial outwash. 34. Cranberry marshes, a landscape of sand and water. Wisconsin is a leading U.S. producer of cranberries, and this is a direct geographical story. Cranberries thrive in the acidic sandy soils and abundant water of the Central Sand Plain, the former bed of Glacial Lake, Wisconsin. The modern-day cranberry beds are intricate man-made marshes built to flood and harvest the floating fruit, marrying the region's unique soil and water geography with agriculture. 33. The Drumlin Field, Milwaukee's Hills. Southeastern Wisconsin contains one of the densest drumlin fields in the world. Drumlins are smooth, elongated, whale-backed hills composed of glacial till, shaped by the enormous pressure of the moving ice sheet. The city of Madison's Capitol Square sits atop one of these hills. This dense clustering of drumlins in the area between Green Bay and Lake Michigan ice slopes is a spectacular, organized display of ice flow. 32. Milwaukee's Lakefront, a glacial harbor. Milwaukee is situated on the shore of Lake Michigan, which itself occupies a massive, glacially carved basin. The city's geography is defined by the high, rolling morainic bluffs that plunge down to the lake. The Milwaukee River flows into the lake at a natural harbor, formed by the protective headlands of the glacial landscape, which provided an early, vital commercial port. 31. The Fox River Green Bay Lowland. The Fox River flows north into Green Bay, a shallow inlet that is itself a major glacial trough, a lowland carved out by the massive Green Bay lobe of the glacier. This river lowland system has been a critical transportation corridor since ancient times, creating the perfect environment for the development of major cities like Green Bay and the Fox Cities metropolitan area. 30. Lake Winnebago, remnant of a glacial sea. Lake Winnebago is Wisconsin's largest inland lake, but it's relatively shallow. It's a remnant of a much larger proglacial body of water called Glacial Lake Oshkosh, which pooled in the basin carved by the Green Bay lobe. The lake's large size and shallowness give it unique thermal properties and make it a key contributor to the Fox River and Green Bay lowland ecology. 29. The Great Lakes coastline, over 800 miles of shore. Wisconsin boasts over 800 miles of Great Lakes coastline, split between Lake Superior and Lake Michigan. This immense freshwater coast is the geographic and economic engine for nearly half of the state's population and is a crucial part of the global Great Lakes ecosystem. Wisconsin is third in the nation for total Great Lakes shoreline length, behind Michigan and New York. 28. Lake Superior, the deep, cold giant. Lake Superior, bordering northern Wisconsin, is the largest freshwater lake in the world by surface area and the deepest, coldest, and clearest of the Great Lakes. Its enormous size and cold water regulate the climate of the Lake Superior lowland, leading to unique ecosystems and affecting localized weather patterns, including the heavy snowfall on the adjacent uplands. 27. The Lake Michigan fishery, a man-made ecology. The rich Lake Michigan fishery, particularly for trout and salmon, is an example of human-induced geography. The native fish populations were heavily impacted by the construction of the Welland Canal and overfishing. The current, robust populations of coho and Chinook salmon are a result of aggressive stocking programs that created a new, artificial ecology within the lake's naturally carved glacial basin. 26. The Mississippi River, Wisconsin's western wall. The state's entire western border is defined by the Mississippi River, which flows through the rugged driftless area. The river here is characterized by dramatic bluffs that climb nearly 600 feet above the water, numerous islands, and floodplain marshes. This section of the river, with its deep bedrock valleys, is an ancient, pre-glacial course. 25. The Lower Wisconsin Riverway, a wide floodplain. The Lower Wisconsin River Valley flows through the driftless area before joining the Mississippi. Its course here is a wide, winding floodplain of constantly shifting sandbars, reflecting the immense volume of meltwater it carried from Glacial Lake, Wisconsin. Today, the Lower Wisconsin State Riverway protects this vast, wild river valley geography. 24. The St. Croix Dalles, Mid-Continent Rift Gorge. The Dalles of the St. Croix, part of the border with Minnesota, is a spectacular gorge where the St. Croix River cuts through Precambrian volcanic rock associated with the Mid-Continent Rift. The high cliffs and turbulent waters of the Dalles were formed when a torrent of glacial meltwater aggressively cut through the hard, ancient rift-related basalt bedrock. 23. The Blue Mounds, Driftless Area Sentinel. Blue Mounds State Park in the Driftless area features the highest point in southwestern Wisconsin, known as the Blue Mounds. These are cuestas, or asymmetric ridges, capped with hard, Ordovician dolomite that resisted the intense erosion that stripped away the softer surrounding rock, leaving them as massive, isolated sentinels over the valleys. 22. The Central Sand Plains Unique Ecosystems. The flat, former lakebed of Glacial Lake, Wisconsin, now the Central Sand Plain, features unique, localized geographies, oak barrens and savanna ecosystems. The fire-prone, sandy soils and flat landscape historically created conditions that supported large areas of native grassland and scattered oak woodlands, a landscape distinct from the state's surrounding dense forests. 21. Horicon Marsh, a glacial lake remnant. Horicon Marsh, a massive wetland in southeastern Wisconsin, is another shallow remnant of Glacial Lake Oshkosh. Its vast, flat, and poorly drained geography make it unsuitable for farming, leading to its preservation as the largest freshwater cattail marsh in the United States, a critical nesting and staging area for millions of migratory birds. 20. Copper-rich basalt, an ancient mining history. The geology of northern Wisconsin and the adjacent Keweenaw Peninsula is rich with native copper, pure copper metal found in basalt rock from the Mid-Continent Rift. The old copper culture of indigenous peoples mined this resource for millennia, creating tools and trade goods that spread throughout the continent, making the region a geographic center of ancient North American metalworking. 19. The state's granite core, the Northern Highland. The Northern Highland region of Wisconsin is underlain by an ancient Precambrian granitic bedrock core. This hard, resistant base, which only softens slightly under the weight of the glaciers, is responsible for the region's overall higher elevation and its vast, slow-draining forests, providing the state with its essential timber resources and northern wilderness character. 18. The red clay plains of Lake Superior. Along the Lake Superior shoreline, particularly the Lake Superior lowland, the soil is dominated by thick layers of reddish, fine-grained glacial clay. This clay was deposited in the calm, cold waters of the ancient glacial Lake Duluth. This heavy, poorly drained soil creates unique ecological challenges and influences everything from agriculture to local infrastructure development. 17. Iron mining and the Gogebic Range. Although iron mining was historically concentrated in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, the Gogebic Range extends into northern Wisconsin. The massive iron deposits here are part of a Precambrian rock band. The wealth generated by extracting these geographically concentrated minerals fueled the development of early ports and rail lines in the northern part of the state. 16. The Menominee River, a boundary of rapids. The Menominee River forms a significant portion of Wisconsin's border with the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Geographically, it's defined by numerous rapids and falls as it tumbles over the uneven terrain of the Precambrian Shield. Historically, these rapids were natural barriers to navigation, making the river a natural and often tumultuous border. 15. The scored bedrock of the Green Bay shore. Along the Green Bay side of the Door Peninsula, the exposed Niagara Escarpment bedrock shows clear evidence of glacial scoring and striations, deep gouges carved by stones embedded in the moving ice. These scratches act as a permanent record of the massive power and exact direction of the Green Bay lobe as it scoured the lowland. 14. Lake Michigan's Deep Basin Trough. Lake Michigan is the only Great Lake located entirely within the United States. Its massive basin is a glacial trough, an incredibly deep depression carved by the advance of the Lake Michigan lobe. This deep, cold basin gives the lake a massive volume and makes it a critical influence on the climate and water resources of eastern Wisconsin. 13. The state's water footprint, a global powerhouse. Wisconsin's numerous lakes, rivers, and Great Lakes coastlines mean that a significant portion, over 20% of the state's total area, is part of the Great Lakes Basin. This enormous, shared freshwater resource makes Wisconsin a crucial steward of one of the world's largest freshwater ecosystems and a geographic powerhouse of water resources. 12. Loess soils of the driftless area. While the driftless area lacks glacial till, its rounded hilltops are often covered in a thick blanket of loess, fine silty soil deposited by wind. This soil blew in from the glacial outwash plains that bordered the unglaciated region, providing a thin, fertile layer over the ancient exposed bedrock. 11. The Kettle Lakes, a young landscape's depth. The Kettle Lakes of the glaciated regions, unlike the shallow Lake Winnebago, are often surprisingly deep for their size. This is because they were formed by the complete meltout of massive detached ice blocks, creating sudden, deep depressions. This depth impacts their thermal layers and, consequently, their fishery and ecology. 10. Blue Hills and Ancient Sandstone. The Blue Hills in northwestern Wisconsin are composed of very hard, erosion-resistant Proterozoic sandstone. Like the Baraboo Hills, they're a landscape of high, ancient rock that stood firm against the glaciers, but the surrounding softer rock was stripped away, giving them their distinctive, high and isolated appearance. 9. The 45° north, 90° west marker, a global crossroads. In Marathon County, near the city of Wausau, Wisconsin, hosts a precise geographic marker, the intersection of the 45th parallel north and the 90th meridian west. This point is geometrically fascinating. It's halfway between the equator and the North Pole, and halfway between the prime meridian and the international date line, though the line is slightly adjusted for land. 8. The Wisconsin River, the state's namesake. The Wisconsin River, which runs approximately 430 miles across the state, gives Wisconsin its name, derived from an Algonquin word. The river's course is a unique combination of ancient pre-glacial valley and newly cut post-glacial channel, showcasing the powerful role it played in draining the melting ice sheets. 7. The land of bogs, fens, and marshes. Due to its glaciated, poorly drained topography, Wisconsin is a haven for wetlands, including thousands of acres of bogs, fens, and marshes. These unique waterlogged ecosystems, often found in kettle depressions and old glacial lake beds, are crucial for flood control, water filtration, and providing rare, specialized plant habitats. 6. The Green Bay Lobe's southern reach. The Green Bay lobe of the glacier was one of the most powerful and far-reaching in the state, pushing as far south as Janesville in Rock County. The immense pressure and thickness of this lobe created a distinct, fertile, and organized landscape across southeastern Wisconsin, contributing to the rich agricultural productivity of the region. 5. The Capitol building sits on a drumlin. The Wisconsin State Capitol building in Madison is strategically situated on a naturally elevated hill that is, in fact, an immense drumlin. This placement, utilizing the natural high ground provided by the glacier, is a classic example of how settlement and civic centers often gravitate towards the highest, most defensible, and most easily drained features in the landscape. 4. The Chippewa Flowage, a man-made wilderness. The Chippewa Flowage in northern Wisconsin is a massive, complex network of over 15,000 acres of open water, islands, and interconnected bays. It's a man-made geography created in the 1920s by damming the Chippewa River. This flooding created a unique lost world of submerged timber and numerous small wild islands, which now forms a massive recreation and conservation area. 3. The driftless area's obsequent and resequent streams. The driftless area features a complex drainage pattern known as obsequent and resequent streams. Obsequent streams flow against the dip of the rock layers, often creating dramatic waterfalls and gorges as they fall over the hard dolomite caps. Resequent streams follow the natural slope. This specialized stream geography highlights the intense erosion of the unglaciated region. 2. Shoreline dune systems, the glacial legacy of sand. Along the shores of Lake Michigan, particularly near the Door Peninsula and up towards Lake Superior, Wisconsin has significant sand dune systems. These dunes are composed of glacial sand and pulverized rock deposited by glaciers and then redistributed by wave action and wind, creating a dynamic, fragile ecosystem that's constantly being reshaped by the elements. 1. Wisconsin, a land of two eras. Ultimately, Wisconsin's geography is a tale of two geological eras. The majority is a young, glaciated landscape full of fresh, post-Ice Age features, lakes, drumlins, and moraines. The driftless area is a deeply ancient, pre-glacial landscape, a testament to the region's topography before the Ice Age began. This coexistence of radically different geographies in a single state makes Wisconsin a truly unique place. From the scouring power of the ice sheet that carved the Great Lakes to the catastrophic flood that carved the dells, and from the ancient copper deep in the north to the Appalachian-like bluffs of the driftless area, Wisconsin is a state where geology, water, and ice have battled for millennia to create one of the most diverse landscapes in the Midwest. Which of these Wisconsin facts were completely new to you? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe for more geography that actually explains the world around you.